What if I told you the secret to a stunning garden isn't working harder, it's actually doing almost nothing at all? No, seriously. There are plants out here that wake up every single year, spread on their own, fight off weeds, survive drought, and still look like you spent every weekend out there tending to them. And the best part? You plant them once. Just once. Most garden channels won't tell you which ones actually deliver on that promise, but today, that changes. Stick around because by the end of this video, your whole approach to gardening is going to shift, and your neighbors are going to start asking questions you'll love answering. Welcome back to Evergreen Gardens, the place where we make sure your garden stays beautiful without your wallet or your back paying the price for it. If you're new here, so glad you found us, you picked a great video to start with. And to everyone coming back, you already know we don't do fluff around here. We get straight to what works. Real quick before we get into it, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button right now. We drop videos every week that are built around saving you time, money, and unnecessary stress in the garden. You don't want to miss what's coming. Alright, let's get into it. Plant 1, Black-Eyed Susan. Starting us off is Black-Eyed Susan. Now before you say you've heard of this one, stay with me, because most people plant it wrong and then wonder why it underperforms. Black-Eyed Susan is a native wildflower, and that right there is the whole key to understanding why it works so well. Native plants are basically built from the ground up for the environment they're going into. They evolved in it. They're adapted to the rainfall patterns, the soil conditions, the local pests. They don't need you hovering over them with a watering can or a bag of fertilizer. They just need to be planted and left alone to do what they've always done. What you get in return is this gorgeous golden yellow bloom with a deep dark chocolate center that shows up in mid-summer and holds on well into fall. Birds love the seeds once the blooms dry out. Pollinators love the nectar while they're flowering. And because Black-Eyed Susan self-seeds generously, meaning it drops its own seeds naturally and new plants grow from them, one plant slowly becomes a whole patch over a few seasons without you doing a single thing to make that happen. You plant once and nature handles the rest. That is exactly the kind of math we appreciate around here. Plant 2, Creeping Phlox. Next up is Creeping Phlox, and this one is genuinely one of the most underrated ground cover plants in existence. People spend money on mulch every single year trying to suppress weeds and fill in bare patches around their garden. Creeping Phlox does all of that and then puts on a spectacular bloom on top of it as a bonus. Every spring without fail it explodes into this thick carpet of tiny flowers in shades of purple, pink, and white that covers the ground so completely it's hard to believe one plant can do that. It hugs the ground tightly, spreads outward slowly and steadily, and chokes out weeds simply by taking up the space they would have used. It also handles slopes and uneven terrain really well, which makes it perfect for those tricky areas in your yard that are difficult to mow, difficult to plant, and just generally annoying to deal with. Plant Creeping Phlox once in a sunny spot with decent drainage and it will quietly expand its territory and come back thicker and more vibrant every single year. Low effort going in. High reward coming out. That is the Evergreen Gardens way. Plant 3, Russian Sage. Alright, Plant 3 is Russian Sage and I need you to picture this properly. Tall, airy, silvery stems reaching up with clouds of tiny lavender blue flowers swaying in a light summer breeze. It looks delicate. It looks like the kind of plant that would crumble the moment you stopped paying attention to it. It absolutely does not. Russian sage is drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and thrives in poor dry soil that would kill most other plants outright. That combination right there is a triple threat that very few plants can offer. Most plants that look this elegant come with a long demanding list of requirements. Russian sage keeps it simple. Full sun and well-drained soil. That is the entire care instruction. Everything else it handles on its own. It blooms from midsummer all the way into fall, which is incredibly valuable because that's the period when a lot of other plants have already finished and your garden can start looking tired and sparse. Russian sage fills that gap beautifully. Plant it toward the back of a border where the height works in your favor and just let it do its thing season after season. Plant 4, Coneflower/Echinacea. Plant number 4 is Coneflower, also known as Echinacea, and if you're only going to add one plant from this entire list to your garden, make it this one without any hesitation. Coneflower is practically indestructible, and that is not an exaggeration. It grows in heat that would stress most plants. It survives extended periods of drought without wilting dramatically. It doesn't mind clay soil or poor soil. It just keeps going regardless of what conditions are thrown at it. While it's blooming, it attracts butterflies by the dozen. Once those blooms fade and the seed heads dry out, goldfinches and other birds flock to them all through fall and even into winter. It self-seeds freely, so it spreads naturally over time, quietly filling in your garden without you directing it at all. The blooms come in purple, pink, white, orange, and red depending on the variety you choose, and each bloom lasts for weeks, not days. A single plant can stay in bloom for 6 to 8 weeks in the right conditions. There's a reason this plant shows up in professional landscapes, relaxed cottage gardens, and wild natural meadows all at the same time. It performs everywhere because it genuinely was built to perform everywhere. This one earns its spot every single year. Quick pause right here. If you are finding this helpful and you haven't liked the video yet, please go ahead and tap that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps more people find this content, which means more garden owners who stop overspending, overworking, and overcomplicating things out there. Also drop a comment below and tell me which plant has surprised you the most so far. I read every single comment and I respond when I can. Okay, back to the list because we still have 5 more to get through. Plant 5, Sedum/Stonecrop. Number 5 is Sedum, sometimes called Stonecrop, and this is the plant you reach for when you have that one stubborn spot in your garden where absolutely nothing else seems willing to grow. You know the spot. Dry, baking hot, rocky, poor soil, maybe on a slope. Most plants take one look at those conditions and give up. Sedum looks at those same conditions and thrives in them because it was literally built for exactly that environment. Sedum stores water inside its thick fleshy leaves, which means it's essentially carrying its own water supply and drought-proofing itself from the inside out. In late summer and into fall it produces flat-topped clusters of flowers in deep rose, rich pink, and warm red that bees absolutely cannot get enough of. Then even after those flowers have faded and the season is winding down, the dried seed heads remain standing through winter and add real texture and visual structure to your garden during the months when most things look bare and forgotten. It is genuinely a 4-season plant that looks intentional and considered all year round without you doing anything extra after that first planting. Plant 6, Catmint. Plant 6 is catmint, and right away I know what some of you are thinking. This is not catnip, though full disclosure, your cat might still find it interesting. Catmint is a beautifully soft, gently mounding perennial with cool gray-green leaves and tall spikes of lavender-blue flowers that give it this hazy, dreamy quality in the garden. It blooms heavily in late spring and it genuinely stops people in their tracks when it's at its peak. Here is the trick that most people miss with this plant. After that first big bloom finishes, cut it back by roughly 1/3. Just trim it down a bit. Within a few weeks it will push out a second round of flowers in late summer. 2 full rounds of blooms from one plant with almost zero effort in between. On top of that it is extremely drought tolerant once established, deer resistant, and it works as a natural deterrent for certain garden pests. Plant it along pathways, as a soft border edge, or nestled between other perennials and it will tie your whole garden together while handling itself with absolutely no fuss from you. Plant 7, Daylily. Number 7 is the Daylily, and before anyone scrolls past this one thinking it's too common or too obvious, please hear me out because there's a reason it keeps showing up on lists like this. Daylilies are on this list because they are among the most forgiving, adaptable, and reliable plants you will ever put in the ground. Clay soil, sandy soil, full sun, partial shade, heat, drought, competition from weeds. Daylilies handle all of it without complaint and without asking anything from you in return. Each individual flower only lasts one day, yes, that's literally where the name comes from, but a single plant produces so many buds in succession that it stays in active bloom for weeks at a time. And because different varieties bloom at different points across the summer, you can plant 2 or 3 varieties with staggered bloom times and have continuous color from early summer right through to late August without doing a single extra thing. They spread through underground roots over time, slowly filling in your space and getting better and fuller with every passing year. Daylilies are the quiet, consistent workers of the perennial world. They never ask for much and they always show up when you need them to. Plant 8, Yarrow. Plant 8 is Yarrow, and this might genuinely be the hardest working plant on this entire list when you add everything up. Yarrow grows in poor soil without complaining. It handles drought conditions that would stress most other perennials. It resists deer. It attracts beneficial insects including ladybugs and parasitic wasps that actually help keep problem pests under control in your garden. And it produces those distinctive flat-topped clusters of flowers in yellow, white, pink, and red that hold their color and structure for months on end. The feathery fern-like foliage looks beautiful and textured even during the periods when Yarrow isn't actively blooming, which means it's contributing to your garden visually all season long. What really separates Yarrow from the rest though is that it spreads through both underground runners and by self-seeding at the same time, which means it is quietly colonizing bare patches and filling gaps in your garden completely on its own. It's essentially a living mulch and a beautiful flowering plant rolled into one. If you have a difficult area you want covered without the cycle of replanting every season, Yarrow is the answer you've been looking for. Plant 9, Hellebore. And saving one of the most quietly remarkable plants for last. Plant 9 is Hellebore, also called the Lenten Rose, and the reason it earns the final spot on this list is because it does something none of the other 8 plants on this list can do. It blooms in late winter to very early spring. Sometimes it pushes its flowers up through frost. Sometimes through a light layer of snow. And when everything else in your garden is still completely dormant and bare, Hellebore is out there giving you deep burgundy, creamy white, soft dusty pink, and intricately speckled purple blooms that look almost too beautiful and too delicate to survive in that cold. But they do. Every time. Hellebore grows best in shade or partial shade, which immediately makes it the answer for that shaded corner under a large tree or along a north-facing wall where other plants simply refuse to cooperate. It is evergreen in mild climates, meaning it holds its leaves through winter and keeps your garden from looking completely dead during the hardest months. It is deer-resistant, drought-tolerant once established, and once it settles into a spot it likes, it will live there and bloom reliably for decades without you doing very much at all. Plant it once in the right spot and it becomes a permanent, dependable, breathtaking part of your garden for the rest of the time you live there. Okay, we are almost at the end and I have to ask. Which one of these are you adding to your garden first? Drop it in the comments. Seriously, I want to know. And if someone you know is out here spending every weekend struggling in the garden, share this video with them. They need this information and it costs you nothing to pass it along. Also, if you are not subscribed yet, what are we doing? Hit that subscribe button. We are building something really good on this channel and you do not want to be late to it. So there you have it. 9 perennials that do the heavy lifting so you don't have to. No complicated care routines. No expensive products. No replanting every season. Just smart choices made once that pay you back for years. That is what Evergreen Gardens is all about. Making sure your garden works for you and not the other way around. Thank you so much for watching this one all the way through. It genuinely means a lot. I will see you in the next one, and until then, keep it simple, keep it green, and let the plants do the work.